Hey guys, Luton here, back for some more Battlefield 4, and today I thought I'd do another round breakdown. We do these periodically where I look at a gameplay and discuss some themes around it. Today I'm going to be thinking about falling back. Now this is Carrier Assault, okay? And in Carrier Assault it's a kind of two-stage process where you basically have a conquest mission ongoing to begin with, and then that kind of turns into sort of a rush MCOM mission as you board the carrier itself. However, it can still be destroyed obviously by those missile batteries within the conquest section. Now here on Nansha, and Nansha is actually a pretty interesting one when it comes to the Naval Strike, because I like the way that this one plays out. It has a kind of map central section where you have three bases really close together in a kind of triangle configuration, and then you have these other bases like C out here and you know, G off in the distance there. So those external bases really have to be controlled by air or, you know, naval units. Those other ones in the central area can be controlled purely by infantry, and so you have to decide kind of the role that you want to play and how that's going to work. Now we as a squad right here, we were trying to take the boats in and try and control the water, and there's a good reason for that. We've been playing this server for a couple of games and these guys are dominating in these attack boats. They did it on the round that we joined before. We actually joined a round before where the team that we were, you know, contributing to had already been playing out a little bit and they were kind of getting smashed into the ground. We actually had another round before as well, which was a loss, but it was a really good loss. And you know, I want to talk a little bit about that actually while we're thinking about some other things going on here about good losses. I said tonight to the guys, I said, you know, back in Bad Company 2, I used to say very often, my driving skills they go into the water, Bad Company 2, and I used to say like, hey, you know, sometimes in Bad Company I didn't mind losing because the game was just a good game, and that's what we had actually. There was another really good round. We were trying so hard, but we were really getting battered around a lot on the previous round, and you know, we were working really hard, but honestly it was hard going, and you know, part of that is to do with the team, part of it is probably with just having one of those bad rounds, but you know, it's like I've said before, unfortunately, whether people like to hear it or not, your team has a major impact on how you and even your squad can kind of contribute to the game, because if the team are not supporting and they're just simply not getting those kills, it means that the majority of enemy forces are going to be coming down on you. And the difference between having people just make a kind of moderate sort of, you know, one-to-one stand, even if people on your squad, on your team are making like just one-to-one kills, that has a big difference compared to people that are just getting wiped out time and time again. And it makes a difference to vehicles, it makes a difference to your ability to move around the map, it makes a difference to your ability to actually gain kills and score in the map as well, because that pressure will be so much higher if you don't have that balance going on. So your team has a very, very large part to play, and that is just kind of, you know, exacerbated the more players you actually have in the game. The more players there are in the game, the less impact you can have as a squad, and the more those kind of kills and overall competence become severely important. So here we are, we're moving back up onto C because we're trying to kind of control those boat areas. We've got a helicopter coming down on us, the guys are pushing in on that. We're bailing out and I'm calling out positions as we come in on the water, make sure these guys are down, and we want to secure C and then move back out. If you actually look at the tickets right now, it's pretty even. We're kind of capping bases evenly. We've got some infantry down in that central section, but what tends to happen in a minute is the enemy obviously make a decision to control that central area, and then you'll start to see those. Right now we've got, what is it, F here as well, and it's kind of like we're balancing and trading bases in between, but suddenly they sort of start to take a much stronger control of those three central bases, plus combined with the fact that we are sort of relatively limited in terms of controlling this external area. So we're doing our best here to kind of just boat it and control these things, but I quickly make a decision in a minute that, hey, we actually need to start really making a more concerted effort to control these central areas. Obviously you only need to control 3 to be in the majority, and you know, I actually think for this map a decent tactic for this map is to not worry about those other things that are going on and control in the central section. However, the problem with that is if your team don't support, if you as a squad say, hey, we're going to work on those 3 central bases, that's good, that's a good tactic to go for. The trouble is if your team don't sort of deal with the boats and the aircraft, what's going to happen is all that firepower is going to be coming down onto you in those central bases, and suddenly you're going to find yourself actually perhaps not in the best position, because again, if the enemy are controlling everything so strongly, it's going to have an impact on you in one way or another. And that's the thing people forget sometimes, you know, it's like you can be doing your sole job, you can be working on a base, but again, you can't control everything together. Right now we're trying to control the water here, we're trying to just sort of put some fire back. We didn't want to have another map where they were having these kind of constant boat dominations and our guys couldn't even get started into the game. Right now we're just about hanging on. Again, the score is actually pretty close. It's 70, what is it, 78, 78? It's pretty close, and you know, it goes on like that. That's what's so interesting about this round. Now obviously I've titled this as Fall Back. Now falling back is something that's really important in the game, and it's something that, you know, not enough of public players will do, and I don't think you're going to end up in a situation where that would actually happen. Okay, people falling back is just not something a lot of players want to do. If they're up there at the front line and they're getting lots of kills and they're getting lots of engagement, it's exciting, it's fun, they don't want to stop and be like, hey, okay, let's get back off of this and do the thing that we need to do. They're not interested, they're not even thinking about that, they're just thinking about the kills, they're thinking about the Doritos in front of them, and you know, if you try and tell them to do that, they don't want to hear it. Okay, so it's just something that's not going to happen. However, you as a tactical squad will have a responsibility to do that if you want to win the game. Now, something that comes up later in this round, you'll see why that's very important. But we also played some Obliteration. There was a really good Obliteration round that we played, and there was some big mistakes going on there from both teams, but there was also some really strong gameplay going on there as well. And something that happened with the Obliteration gameplay was falling back, because very often if you lose a flank, if you lose a lane and they break through on one or wherever section, you need to fall back on that. And you've seen me do this on live streams and things with Obliteration and Conquest and Domination. Conquest, for example, if you've got multiple bases and you've got them locked down, and then all of a sudden, there we go, down on the floor, multiple bases. I have a rough start, to be honest. This round ends up sort of 50-50 for me. It's not a great one, but it's a good one overall, sort of tactically. It's a good sort of overview of just kind of how the game plays down. That's why I've got it in here. These round breakdowns, if you've not seen me do them before, it's not about me getting elite gameplay. It's not about me getting a massive, crazy high KD. I mean, I had some astonishing rounds of domination and stuff the other day where we were going like, you know, 5-1 KDs and things like that. That's not what this is about. It's not about racking streaks or anything. What this is about demonstrating how, you know, your standard, this is totally unedited throughout the entire gameplay. It's just about showing how the rounds go down and discussing and thinking about the tactics involved, and just, you know, you look at these gameplays and analyze what's happening in them, and then you think about how you can transfer that into your own gameplay. And that's something that I really enjoy, really love, and you know, it's something I used to do throughout all of my gaming, right back to when I used to do the other MMOs and things like this. And it's a really good thing to do. You look back at the round, you think, okay, how is this happening? This is what we used to do with gameplay for bosses in WoW. You know, you look at your gameplay and you think, okay, what did we do wrong here? What did we do right here? How can we change it for the better for the next time? And that's kind of what you do with these rounds. So here we are. Now this is where we've made a decision to come in and try and put more pressure. Now I said to the other guys, I said we still need to have a presence out in the water, so there's some other guys back there still doing that, but we also need to try and control this central section, because they were just putting too much pressure here. They were controlling it, and if they keep control of these 3 points all at the same time, then we're just not going to be able to make any headway. We're going to get outplayed, we're going to lose the round. So it's really important that even if we can't fully control it, we have to try and make some sort of an effort to just try and put the pressure back on them. And you can see right now here, the guys are still out on the boat. We've got 2 boats up, but we're also trying to put pressure now here on, what is this, D, and we're trying to sort of keep control of things. But falling back is really important. Falling back is so important in order to, you know, keep that tactical control of the game. And as I say, Obliteration, Conquest, those are good examples of those kind of things. Where Obliteration, they break through with the bomb. You need to fall back to defend your bases and control, retake that bomb. Okay, Conquest, they break through the line. Suddenly, before you know it, 1 or 2 guys gets through, then it's a squad, then it's a vehicle, then you lose control, and before you know it, the whole thing falls apart like a house of cards. It's so important to fall back and deal. You've got to prioritize. Prioritize is still one of the most important things you can possibly do in Battlefield, is prioritize positions, prioritize targets, prioritize players. Look at what's happening in the game, look at what people are doing in the game, and then, you know, make your decisions based off of that. If you can't, you've got to do it fast. You've got to look at what's happening, because things unfold very quickly. If you don't make a quick decision, and, you know, like I've said before, you know, the worst thing often that people do in game is dither. They sort of sit there, go, oh, blah, blah, blah. You know, they don't know what to do, or they make a choice and then just do it. Okay, don't spend too long thinking about it or dicking around or sort of going, oh, I'm going to go here, oh, I'm going to wait for this spot. You know, make a choice and then just do it. wasted time is one of the worst things of all, and I say this to people all the time. Just make a choice. Do. Just go. Domination is the best example of this. Domination is really amazing for practicing your kind of decision making and movement skills, because in domination you often have, you know, situations unfold very, very quickly. You have to make a choice. Do I go left? Do I go right? Do I push this lane? Do I push that lane? Which base do I go to? We've just capped this. Where are the enemy going to move to? There's so many things happening very quickly. It's great in terms of infantry gameplay, and it's great in terms of tactical gameplay because of how that plays out. And I actually think I should probably make another video talking specifically about that. Domination is one of my most favourite gameplays. Mainly, I've always enjoyed domination as a game mode right back to COD 4, because I think it's extremely tactical. It requires quite a lot of gunplay skill, and you really see how that comes through. But speed and decision making is so critical in that, and so is the ability to fall back. You know, falling back I want to keep coming back to, because that's sort of what I'm talking about through this video, and as I say, it really is critical at the end of this round right here. And you know, falling back and the ability to do so, it's the difference between a squad that are good at the game and really focusing and pushing through, and a really excellent squad who are tactically aware and know what they need to do in order to win the game. Okay. Now you can have a squad that's I mean, I've said this before, you know, I am not the best player in terms of getting kills and stuff, and a lot of you guys, my subscribers, have noted this and said, like, you know, look, LT is not the best player, but he knows where to go and what to do, and, you know, think from that point of view. And it's true. You know, that's what I like about Battlefield as well, is that you can kind of come back, you can kind of, you know, you can kind of balance out your skill set. And for me personally, like, I often find that my ability to sort of think and move and know where to go to and where to get onto them and predict where the enemy are going to move to actually kind of balances out for me against my kind of not, you know, top end gunplay skill. I still feel like, you know, I'm reasonable with the weapon. I have bad moments, like we all do, perhaps more so than some people, I guess, but you know, it balances out, and I think that's what you should do as well, guys, when you're playing, is look at what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and then sort of understand those, understanding your strengths and weaknesses. And again, this is what I've said before about, you know, you learn more from a loss than you do from a win. If you have steamroll rounds and you just sort of roll over people and again because the other team is so disorganized, that teaches you nothing. You don't take anything away from that. But if you have a hard fight and a really good round and you struggle and maybe you don't win, but you take a lot more away from that, you can look at what went wrong, you can look at what you were doing, you can think about what you're going to do better in the next round. That's what's so critically important. Now, falling back at this point, look at this. The carriers opened both almost simultaneously. Ours went down first, but then theirs went down. And I said to the guys whilst we were in the game, I said, this is the opportunity. We're not going to win on base control because we're simply just not getting there. I said, what we've got to do now is we've got to throw every single person at that carrier and try and take it down faster than them. And that's what we did. The whole squad came in here, and you can see, and I was communicating with the guys. We were telling everyone to split up, control different sections. You can see Supra's in here, Fuse's in here, and they're kind of moving around. And so we're kind of sweeping the base, keeping control. We're not clustered together, we're not staying together in one little tight ball. We're spread out, controlling different positions, making sure that the base is under control. We're moving up, get onto the next MCOM, take it down. And so working. Now, the enemy team, they should have fallen back, or they should have had some players. When both carriers go down simultaneously, you know, it's very difficult because, you know, you're not sure, okay, are we going for the attack, are we defending, what are we doing? But you've got to have some defense. Some people have to make the decision to kind of fall back at a certain time. And that's the difference. If you have a team with a squad which are tactically enabled and making the decisions to fall back and control these positions, that's the difference between a loss and a win. That's the difference between, you know, a really good side and a team that's, you know, just not got it going on. So let me know your thoughts about this today, guys. How do you find? Do you fall back? Do you play for the objective? Or are you always about getting those kills at the front? It's always important. You've got to keep the enemy pinned down. You've got to keep the kills going on. It's got to happen. You have people that are very, very skilled at that. But at the same time, if you don't have those people pull back and fall back, everything can fall apart. Think about Metro. If people break through on Metro and nobody falls back to deal with that situation, before you know it, they'll be coming up behind you, clearing everyone out, and then you're back at the spawn, and then it's a spawn trap, and then it's game over. It's far more important than you think. Let me know your thoughts about it today, guys. Thanks for watching. As always, if you've enjoyed, drop it a little rating. Sub if you haven't. I'll see you next time, guys, for some more Battlefield 4.